أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين.
Allah, the merciful, the compassionate, all praises to Allah, the creator of the universes and their sustainer, the provider of believers and unbelievers, and may his choicest blessings be on the seal of his prophets, the last of his messengers and his holy progeny. Glorified is Allah, who in his holy book in Surah Bani Israel says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Ja al-Haq wa Zahaq al-Batil, Inna al-Batila kana zahuqa. Verily, truth has come and falsehood has vanished, because falsehood is a thing but to vanish. That inshallah will be the substratum of our discussions this evening to complete what we were stating yesterday about Khaybar. Well, we reached, I think, the situation where the Holy Prophet decided with them that those who wish to go could go, leaving all their properties behind, and those who wish to remain could remain. They could continue to reside in their residences, they could continue to cultivate their farms, but half the income would proceed towards the revenue of the state. It is, yes, and it is the Banu Nazir, I think I'm right in recalling, who under the arbitration were ordered to be executed if men, and to be taken in if women or children. Well, it is at Khaybar that two or three things happened which I had wished to wind up with, but time didn't permit yesterday. One was that Ja'far bin Abi Talib came in back from Abyssinia to Medina at about that time, and this was because in the 7th year of the Hijrah, which is also the year in which Khaybar took place, the Holy Prophet had taken upon himself to write letters of invitation to various sovereigns. About 6 sovereigns were addressed letters. So you can see a situation was reached within the Commonwealth when international relations are now developing, and protocol is being established with other nations. 6 nations were addressed letters. One of them was the Emperor of Abyssinia, now Ethiopia. Do you remember when we discussed that issue? I did say that the king of Abyssinia subsequently became a Muslim. Indeed, by the year 7th after Hijrah, he was already a Muslim. And the Holy Prophet addressed him 2 letters. In the first letter, he invited him formally, as a formality, to accept Islam, so that people within his realm would accept Islam. And secondly, a personal letter with 2 requests. One, that all those Muslims whom he had so kindly granted political asylum in Abyssinia were now in a state to be brought back to Medina, and the Holy Prophet would wish to relieve him of the residence of those Muslims in Abyssinia if he could kindly arrange for a ship to bring them back. The Holy Prophet would be grateful for it. Secondly, he wanted his marriage, his betrothal arranged with Habiba, because Habiba's husband had been has died in Abyssinia. She was totally without any support. She was without maintenance. She was destitute, and the Holy Prophet thought she needed some support. So it is at this point in time, whilst the Holy Prophet was in Khaybar, that Ja'far returned with his team. Indeed, Ja'far joined the Holy Prophet in Khaybar. Another point of significance in Khaybar is relating to Fadak. One of the Jewish settlements just outside Khaybar was a locality called Fadak. And when the problems in Khaybar were over, the Holy Prophet sent Imam Ali alayhi salam to Khaybar with the standard to ascertain their stand. They immediately gave way, they surrendered and said, whatever the Holy Prophet has decided with the Jews of Khaybar is acceptable and fine with us. So half the land became available for revenue. They said they would cultivate half of it, and half they gave to the Holy Prophet. Of the portion that they gave to the Holy Prophet, entire portion which they gave to the Holy Prophet became usable at the will of the Holy Prophet. Because this was not ghanima, it was not a situation in which, as a result of war, the property was acquired. It was given away to the Prophet without resistance altogether. The Prophet didn't know what to do with it. And there was the ayah of Bani Israel that was revealed for that occasion, which said, وَآتِ ذِي الْقُرْبَى حَقَّهُ, and give to your kith and kin their share. The Holy Prophet couldn't quite understand the command of Allah. And when he sought clarification from Jibreel, Jibreel brought the orders from Allah that it is Allah's order that this plot of land be allocated to your daughter Fatima, salamullahi alayha. I do not want to take you into the history of Fadak, except quickly to mention that it remained with her only until Abu Bakr became the first Khalif, and he confiscated the property from Bibi Fatima alayha salam, making it public property. It remained public property only for a while. When Uthman became the third Khalif, he handed it on to Marwan bin Hakam, and it became the sole property, the personal property of Marwan bin Hakam. You can see how property given to Bibi Fatima alayha salam on divine orders became squandered in this way. And ultimately, it was in the time of the fifth Imam alayhi salam that some provision for restoration was made. However, be that as it may, that was insofar as the Jews in Khaybar are concerned. Another development took place in the year 8th AH. I said earlier on that by this point in time, international relations were being developed. So we are moving on in the history of the Holy Prophet. From nothing, it came to be tribal. From tribal, entirely Banu Hashim and Banu Muttalib in Shayb Abi Talib. From then it moved on to the first and second pledge of Aqaba, and from that situation to the Muhajir and Ansar, and from that situation on to further leaps and bounds, and we shall see more of that tonight inshallah. We shall come inshallah to the situation of Ja al-Haq wa Zahaq al-Batil. However, but before that, I wanted to say that even before we reach that situation, the Holy Prophet, you can see in what hurry he was to see that Islam not only spreads in the entire Hijaz, it spreads its wings far and beyond. One of the letters that was sent by him was to the governor of Bostra. When the governor of Bostra received this, when the emissary left, Harith bin Umayr it was, he left Medina with this letter for the governor of Bostra. On the way at Muta, the chief of Mata receives the news, accosts this particular emissary and kills him. The Holy Prophet regarded that as a most flagrant breach of international relations and protocol. He took the view, and I'm sure that the international jurists of today will take the view, that if he did not stop such activities, there would be endless massacre of Islamic emissaries. Any emissary he might send to any place in the world would be vulnerable to such an attack on the hands of another chief, at lib, without any restraint and without any control on the part of the Holy Prophet. Indeed, it would be it would indeed be a wreckage of his international relations, international protocol, and international mission altogether. He therefore took a very serious view of the situation and decided he will send an army to fight the chief of Muta with instructions to kill him. He set out a contingent under his freed slave Zayd bin Haritha. He is a person we have talked about almost from the second night of our sittings here. Zayd bin Haritha was sent out with 3,000 men, a full contingent. The orders were, this is the first battle, as you see, in which the Holy Prophet did not participate himself, nor did Imam Ali alayhi salam. Zayd bin Haritha was put in charge with 3,000 people with orders that should something happen to Zayd bin Haritha, then Ja'far bin Abu Talib should take over as the commander of the army. And should anything happen to him, that Abdullah bin Ruwaha should be in charge of the contingent. You can see how much provision the Holy Prophet made for that small trip, for that small trip to Muta. That if one person is killed, another should hand over. Because he was not going to be there himself. I ask the youth of today, can you believe it, that when he was leaving this earth, and he was not going to be with Ummah anymore, he would not have provided for a successor? That the Ummah would have been left to make arrangements for a successor? But I go a step further. I go a step further and say this, that he did not content himself with saying, Zayd bin Haritha, if he is killed, Ja'far bin Abu Talib, if he is killed, Abdullah bin Ruwaha. He went further and said that in the event that even Abdullah bin Ruwaha is killed for any reason, then the rest of you will select from amongst yourselves a commander whom you want to lead you for the rest of the battle. So he would have said in respect of his succession, that if I go and there is no person to lead you, and if he did not want to appoint anybody, he would likewise have said, you will elect someone within yourself. But I dare say, if the Holy Prophet would have said that, then he would have made provision for electoral suffrage, he would have made provision for electoral constituency, he would have made provision for the ballot box also. Because how is it fair? I ask. I wanted to do this when I planned the addresses. I wanted to speak about this tonight. It is just perchance that I am able to do so. Otherwise I would have done it on Friday. How was it fair that at Saqifa a few people gathered would select who the Khalif was going to be, without any regard to the Muslims in other parts of the world? And we will see tonight how many more people had taken suffrage and had become Muslims. How about those who had entered into the pact under the People's Charter? How about those who received rights under the charter granted to the monk of St. Catherine? Be that as it may, we say, because logic would so dictate, we say that the Holy Prophet, who is now organizing international relations, would not have left this earth without making any provision for a successor. It would be beneath his dignity. This person who we saw how much he could foresee, who we saw was not only a teacher, but indeed was a statesman, was a strategist, was not only a military strategist, was a diplomatic strategist. And we now see as a possessor of international acumen to hold relations with other international governments and countries. That person with that insight could not have left his people without a leader. Immediately he goes, particularly when he knew when he was going. However, in Muta, this contingent left. When the governor of Basra got the news, he became thoroughly frightened. He knew the history of the Muslims, and he knew how the Muslims fight. Without ammunition, without a full garrison of fighters, without a full cavalry, they would still, even as footmen, perform battles which much more experienced Meccans could, and even Jews could not match. So frightened, he immediately decided he must write to the Emperor of Rome. So he wrote to Heraclius, the Emperor of Rome. And he sent the information that 3,000 Muslims are coming. Believe it or not, the Emperor of Rome sent an army. I don't call it a contingent, I don't call it a battalion, an army of 100,000 men. So you can see the reputation of the Muslim army, and now even the Holy Prophet was known not to be in that army. Now even Imam Ali alayhi salam, who had dealt with Marhab and who had dealt with Amr bin Abdawad, was known not to be in that army. 100,000 people came out, and they stopped in the valley of Balqa in Syria to fight this army. It is on the way at Ma'ab that Zayd bin Haritha obtains his news. He is not sure how to react. He decides he must stop and send a message to the Holy Prophet. Ja'far bin Abi Talib was exactly of that view, that we must send a message to the Holy Prophet and let him decide what we should do next. But Abdullah bin Ruwaha said, no, the Holy Prophet can misconstrue this stand. Indeed, what is our stand? We have been ordered by the Prophet to come out and fight. So we do. Are we going to be scared by the numbers of the fighters on the other side? Or are we just relying on the help from Allah? Providence has always helped us, and on we must march. And so they did. They met at Muta, and this is the Battle of Muta. And there the Romans confronted them. The Romans were being led by the brother of the emperor, the brother's name being Theodorus. So you can imagine how important this battle became to the non-Muslims. How frightened they must have been of the prestige and the on-fight and onslaught of the Muslim regime. It became a power to be reckoned with. And what are we talking about? 8 years after Hijrah. 8 years after Hijrah, this contingent of the Holy Prophet, not well armed anyway, became a power to be reckoned with. From Rome goes the very brother of the emperor to lead this army. And of course, with their numbers, they had a superior advantage. They fought, and so valiantly did the Muslims fight. Zayd bin Haritha lost his life and handed over to Ja'far. Ja'far too fought valiantly. Indeed, to kill Ja'far, they had to resort to the kind of tricks that the Syrians and the Kufians had to resort to in Karbala with Hazrat Abbas alayhi salam. They first cut off his right arm. But Ja'far, in his valor, moved the standard to his left arm and was also fighting with his left arm. They cut off his left arm. He held the standard with the remnants of his left arm. Didn't have any more hands to fight with, but continued to slog on until he was given a stroke on the head and he collapsed. He collapsed with hands gone. Immediately, Abdullah bin Ruwaha took over. And it so happened that he too was killed in that battle. Immediately the Muslims gathered around. And having gathered around, all those who were there unanimously selected Khalid to proceed. Khalid, as you know, a new convert. He moved on. He found that the Muslim army was now thinning out. But he found one thing, that the Romans and the Syrians had gone far behind what would be a matter, far behind the area that would be found to be a threat to the Muslims. Having cleared that area, he decided no more lives should be lost, and he retreated to Medina. They were not well received. The Madanites accused them of having run away from the battlefield. But they came back, and when they came back, again, although I'm not going to detain you on this tonight because I want to cover two more important areas, again, the Holy Prophet had held a session of mourning, a majlis, what we call, a sitting of mourning for Ja'far. He was extremely hurt, he was grieved, and indeed again the women also gathered. There was wailing. He went to the house of Zayd bin Haritha, he went to the house of Abdullah bin Ruwaha, and in respect of Ja'far he held a majlis in his own premises. He cried, and he cried so much that he sobbed. But indeed, this happened even before the army came back, because obviously the Holy Prophet knew while sitting in Medina what was happening in Muta. He went to the house of Zayd bin Haritha and consoled the daughters, and to the house of Abdullah bin Ruwaha and consoled the children even before the event happened. And for Ja'far there was mourning and wailing even before the army came back. Next day he goes to the Masjid al-Nabawi, and he was smiling and happy. And obviously the companions were intrigued. They inquired of him, "Oh Holy Prophet, yesterday you were so grieved about Ja'far, hardly a day has passed, and we see you in jubilant, joyous mood about Ja'far. What is this?" And the Holy Prophet said, "Last night I saw Ja'far in my dream. I saw Ja'far in my dream. I saw him already in heaven. Not only that, he had no arms, but Allah has given him 2 wings. And now I see Ja'far is able to fly all over in the heavens with the help of his 2 wings." From that day, he comes to be known as Ja'far al-Tayyar, that is, in the shape of a bird, one who flies with 2 wings. That was the status of Ja'far. And he also revealed that he saw Zayd bin Haritha in heaven. He saw Abdullah bin Ruwaha, and he saw so many martyrs. And he says, "This sight makes me happy for them, makes me pleased that they have attained levels far superior than what the earth could offer them." That is the very brief touch on the Battle of Muta, because this name is heard, and I thought it was important that its significance be carried out, particularly to introduce the question of international relations. On Friday night, inshallah, we shall talk more of international relations and his approach to 6 different sovereigns and his receipt of a number of delegations from different envoys. The Friday session, as you perhaps have already heard, the announcement will start at 8:30 p.m. instead of 8:15 p.m. And the trustees have been kind enough. Akbabai has informed us very kindly that we could even go beyond the 1 hour of 1:30, although it is not my intention to detain you unduly longer. But Saturday night, inshallah, we shall devote exclusively to a question and answer series. I have been extremely anxious that there should always be a question and answer series where I am able to amplify things that I did not clarify to the extent that they should be, to answer questions that remain lurking in the minds of the youth, and indeed to provide elders who are sitting here an opportunity to put right any matter on which I may have gone amiss, or any matter which I may have misrepresented in any detail or in any form. Gives them an opportunity to put things right. And that indeed is one of my prime purposes. But indeed, the days of monologues are gone, and dialogue has got to be encouraged. I would prefer that it happens every night, as we started in 95 and 96, because then questions that are fresh in mind are aired the very next day, and discussions flow in sequence. However, the situation in which we have been lately, being sandwiched between 2 other majlises which also have to take place, and particularly when they are addressed by ulama, then our time becomes squeezed in, and hence it was thought that one session exclusive to question and answer might be more amenable. That inshallah will be on Saturday night. That session also will start at 8:30, and again we will not be confined to the restriction of 1 hour. However, Immediately after Muta, there was a little time, and in the 8th year of the Hijrah, another very strange development takes place. Last night we discussed about the Sulh, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, under which for 10 years the Meccans and the Prophet were to remain in peace. Both sides were allowed to have allies. Both sides were allowed to preach their causes, and to make friends, and to make alliances, and to protect each other's alliances. So alliances were formed almost instantly after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. There was a group of people, the Abi Bakrs, and they, the tribe of Bakr, joined hands with the Meccans. The Khuzais joined hands with the Holy Prophet. So the Holy Prophet took them under his wings of protection. These two were tribes that were living on the opposite sides of the valley in Mecca. Now, the Banu Bakrs would kill the people of the Khuzai sect, of the Khuzai tribe, and then there would be fights between them. Sometimes the Khuzai people would retaliate against the Banu Bakr. Hence, there was that reign before the Holy Prophet, in which might was right. The Holy Prophet reversed the roles. After Islam, right only was the might. And then, the Treaty of Hudaybiyah and the alliances. So the moment on this occasion, in the 8th year after Hijrah, the Banu Bakr infringed their agreement with the Khuzais and killed their people. The Khuzais discovered that the Meccans had joined hands with them, and under the guise of being Khuzais, they too, of the guise of being the Banu Bakrs, they too went over to Khuzais and killed the Khuzais. The Khuzais, unable to meet that situation on their own, protested to the Holy Prophet, laid their grievance, that we are under your protection and are being mistreated in this way. The Holy Prophet said, this is a flagrant breach of the treaty and cannot be tolerated. Hence, he decided that he would march against the Meccans. But he decided that this time he will act with greatest prudence. He asked the Khuzais to leave the matter to him. Of course, intelligence reached the Meccans that the Khuzais have already complained to the Holy Prophet, and the Holy Prophet told them that he would take action in the matter. Of course, what action would be taken was neither declared nor known to the Meccans. However, now frightened that things might go amiss, Abu Sufyan, for the first time, travels from Mecca to Medina. He comes to plead the case with the Holy Prophet. So you can see how the roles are now reversed. Now they're coming to the Holy Prophet to plead their causes. When he arrived, he did not have the courage to meet the Holy Prophet. He therefore decided he would go to the house of one of his daughters, who was the wife of the Holy Prophet, Habiba. But the moment he enters the house and wants to sit on that little mat, Habiba removes the mat and says, "Oh my father, you can't sit on this." He asks why. She says, "The Holy Prophet sits on this mat. By virtue of that fact, this mat becomes holy." Why are people criticizing us for kissing the shrine of the Holy Prophet, for kissing the shrine of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and for that matter kissing the Taziyah? This is Habiba in the very lifetime, as I said in a few nights back, at the nose of the Holy Prophet, says the mat has become holy because the Holy Prophet sits on it. She removes the mat and says, "You will not sit on it." So he says, "But why can't I?" She says, "You are an idol worshipper. An idol worshipper does not sit on a mat the Holy Prophet sits on." Abu Sufyan walks out, snubbed, goes to Imam Ali alayhi salam, and Imam Ali alayhi salam snubs him too, goes to Abu Bakr, receives no joy, and ultimately decides to address the Holy Prophet himself. In the mosque of Medina, he meets the Holy Prophet, and says to the Holy Prophet that, look, you may have received this information, but I have come to say to you that whatever happened has happened. We want to confirm and reinforce the treaty of Hudaybiyah. The treaty stands. You can take it that we stand by the treaty, and we would like you to know that that treaty is still valid and enforceable. In other words, they were saying, yes, this did happen, but it was an error. And we've come to say that the treaty stands. Of course, it was an untenable situation, because you cannot keep on the one hand breaching the agreement, and on the other hand asserting that you are treating the agreement as valid and subsisting. That is a contradictory situation, which is an untenable situation. The Holy Prophet said, I have heard you, Abu Sufyan, but I am totally unimpressed. So he decides to stand in the mosque of Medina and make an announcement in the holy mosque that insofar as the Makkans are concerned, this particular treaty stands. What he was trying to do, in other words, was telling the Madanites that we stand, the Makkans stand by the treaty of Hudaybiyah, so do not join any army to come and attack us, because for 10 years we don't attack each other. We can keep infringing the treaty. You don't. And the Holy Prophet, I believe, might well have taken an easier attitude, a lighter attitude, as he always did, of the situations between Makkans and himself. But always, when it came to innocent, other lives being lost. For example, when it came to defending the lives of children and family of his converts, he always took a different line. The Banu Nazir were executed, the Bani Kunayka were not. However, having said that, he went away. The Holy Prophet ordered, after a few days, that an army be assembled. Nobody knew where they were going. Of course, some secret went out and a letter went to Makkah, with which I do not want to detain you. But on the whole, it all remained a secret. An army of 10,000 men this time. For the first time you hear that large figure insofar as the Muslim army is concerned. The highest you so far heard was 3,000. This time now, 10,000 people have joined the army, and they are going out to a destination they know not. And immediately the Holy Prophet went out. It was the holy month of Ramadan. It was on the 10th of Ramadan, of that holy month, that he marched out. And soon he had been out, he ordered a full glass of water, and while he was still in the course of a fast, he drank the full glass of water and asked everybody there to drink a full glass of water or to break their fast. Hence, this rule of breaking the fast the moment you cross Hadd al-Taraqqus came into being. And those who did not want to break the fast were regarded as disobedient of the order of Allah. Hence the great sanction that when you are on a journey, the fast must be broken. They moved on, and they moved on in total secrecy until they reached the border of Makkah that we now call the Haram itself. Not the mosque, the Haram. Which is what? About 2 miles or so out of Makkah. That is where he stationed, on hilltops. And for the first time at night he said, you can put your fires on. A little earlier on, at Dhul Hudayfa, he met Abbas coming from Makkah to Medina with his family. He asked Abbas to join him and asked the family to be escorted to Medina. And that night, fire was up. Everybody knew that the place to attack was Makkah. Abbas, still with some relationship with the Makkans, with whom, if you remember, he had even fought in the battle of Uhud. With all that relationship, he decided that it was right that the Makkans be told that the army of the Holy Prophet was there in such large number, and the only course open to them is to surrender, so that the Holy Prophet is able to achieve his goal without a fight. He set out from the camp at night, only to see if there are people around. And lo and behold, he meets Abu Sufyan. Abu Sufyan says, Abbas, what are you doing here? He says, I have joined the army of the Holy Prophet. He asks, where is the army going to? And Abbas says, it is coming to attack Makkah. for all your breaches of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, you cannot be treated lightly. You cannot be trusted that you will adhere to that treaty anymore. And the Holy Prophet is here with a huge contingent, this time of 10,000 people. Abu Sufyan was scared. He said, look, let me take you to the Holy Prophet. He took him to the Holy Prophet. When he took him to the Holy Prophet, there he was asked, options are two. Either you become Muslims, so that the question of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah does not exist anymore, or tomorrow morning you will see this army attack Makkah. Makkah was least prepared for that fight. The Makkans, fewer in numbers now than the warriors of the Muslim army, but apart from that, they had already seen what happened at Badr. They saw what happened at Khandaq. Now there is no courage left to fight the Muslims. Abu Sufyan says, no, we do not want to fight. Well, the Holy Prophet says, you must become a Muslim. Do you accept that there is no God but Allah? He says, yes, la ilaha illallah. Abbas then says, do you accept that Muhammadun Rasulullah? He says, he did this. Abbas says, there is no time. The night is now short. There is no dithering. You either confirm now or we know where you stand. Afraid that his head might be chopped off, because if that is what he would have done if he had been the Prophet. Afraid, he says, he gives the testimony that the Holy Prophet is true Prophet of Allah. It is in these circumstances, mind you, that Abu Sufyan becomes a Muslim. This is the grandfather of Yazid, the father of Muawiyah. And everybody who was with him, there were 2-3 people with him, leading people, all become Muslims. And as all this is happening, the contingents became ready for marshalling. They were marshaled, and he stood there and saw. And he says to Abbas, "Oh Abbas, your nephew has indeed become a mighty king." And Abbas says, "No, Abu Sufyan, my nephew has not become a mighty king. Much more than that, he has become a holy prophet of Allah himself." That is a status that cannot again now be excelled. It is as high as a human can reach, beyond what kings and monarchs can attain. He sees the army, decides he will rush to the Makkans. He rushes into Makkah and explains to them. But what a glorious prophet! Before Abu Sufyan leaves, he says, "Oh Abu Sufyan, come back, carry my message to the Makkans. Tell them, he who becomes Muslim is saved from the fight of this army. He who wants amnesty will get amnesty if he is in the well of the Kaaba. He who wants amnesty will get amnesty if they remain in their houses and keep the doors closed. No closed door will be stormed into. Nobody in the Kaaba will be molested. Nobody who recites La ilaha illallah will be touched." So he breaks that news. In the morning, standard is given to Imam Ali alayhi salam. He goes on with orders to post it on Mount Hujn. The Prophet keeps check on the rear and becomes the head of the rear guard himself. And he moves on. But he's not allowed to move on. People now are thronging him. Ultimately, he reached at Mount Hujn, and from there he proceeded into Makkah. But he proceeds into Makkah with chantings of Allahu Akbar, with chantings of La ilaha illallah. Now Makkah is truly beginning to become a city of Allah. He enters. He has no preoccupation greater than the tawaf of the Kaaba. That is his foremost assignment. He goes round the Kaaba 7 times, and these new converts look at him with the greatest of reverence. They see piety oozing from him, effusing from him. Why not? It is after years that he has had this opportunity. He had just did the Umratul Qadha the previous year, but under different circumstances. Now, no restraints, no 3 days limit. The place is under his feet almost. He kisses the ground of Kaaba. He kisses the black stone. Then he recites his prayers, the prayers after tawaf. having recited the prayers, he then confronts the people. This is the first address of the Holy Prophet in that Kaaba under different circumstances. The previous addresses you have heard me speak of. Previous addresses were addresses in the Kaaba at which he was stoned. Addresses in which refuse was being thrown at him. Addresses at which he was heckled and abused. He was not allowed to finish his address. Indeed, you will recall, he was even expelled from the Kaaba. Today, that very set of people, I say, Ja al-Haq wa Zahaq al-Batil, Inna al-Batila kana zahuqa. Those precious holy words of Surah Bani Israel have already resounded true in the well of the Kaaba. He addresses them. He says, you remember what has happened to me. I remember what has happened to me. I pause to think of all the things that he might have remembered. Would he not have remembered the Shebe Abu Talib? Would he not have remembered what caused the martyrdom of Bibi Khadija and Hazrat Abu Talib? The year of mourning that he had. And after that, would he not have remembered the Hijrah? The circumstances under which he sent all his people out of Makkah, and when all were safely out, circumstances under which he left under very swords over his head, penetrating under them into safety with grace of Allah. And although he remembered all that, and I only took a minute of your time to bring you back into the full scenario, with all this memory before him, he turns to the Makkans and says, what do you want me to do to you? And the Makkans in unison says, O generous Prophet of Allah, O sire of ours, we expect you to forgive us. And the Holy Prophet says, you are forgiven. The words are, Idhab antumut tulaqa. One remembers the words of Nabi Yusuf set out in the Holy Quran, in the holy verse, where he says, La tathriba lakumul yawm. After the brothers meet him when he was a king now, and they meet him and he identifies them, and they are sorry, seeking forgiveness, he says, today there is no punishment for you. The Holy Prophet, the words he used are, not that there is no there is no punishment for you. He says, Izhab, you can go, antumut tulaqa, you are freed people. Hence. And those who were with me in the discussions last year on the journey from Karbala to Damascus will remember that when Bibi Zainab alayha salam confronted Yazid in his own court in Damascus, mind you, this is not in Makkah now. And I wonder what was the more difficult of the two addresses, the address in the well of the Kaaba or address in the court of Yazid, in the court of that tyrant who was out to kill the Ahlul Bayt. It is in that court that Bibi Zainab alayha salam addresses Yazid, Yabnat Tulaq, O Yabnat Tulaqa, O one who is the son of one freed by my grandfather. What were you but a slave who was freed by my grandfather? That is the sequence, that is the context in which Bibi Zainab alayha salam was able to address Yazid in that way, quoting exactly verbatim the expression of the Holy Prophet. There was rejoicing in Makkah. They thought they would all now be killed, each one of them. Little did they know the generosity of this teacher of a religion which was named peace by itself, Islam. and that is the peace he preached all through his life. Great is the injustice, I keep repeating. Indeed, to us, painful is the injustice being caused by those historians and those writers who have the courage to call this holy, pious, peaceful prophet one who spread the religion by his sword. Well, the Holy Prophet, having achieved that, he then decided he would meet the people at the Mount Safa. What a place! The Holy Prophet, the Quran says, Inna Safwa wal Safwata wal Marwata min sha'airillah. These places are from the designated places of Allah. These are places that are remembrance of Allah. That is the spot he chooses for meeting the people. And he says, anybody who wants to make bay'ah, anybody who wants to make allegiance to me, this is the place to come to. And they thronged in thousands. Men came and made the bay'ah. When they finished, women came. The Holy Prophet covered his hand with a cloth, and the women also came and made that their bay'ah to the Holy Prophet. And the and the situation in Makkah is now in which the city is converted to Islam. That very city that had rejected him now applauds him. The Holy Prophet turns to Imam Ali alayhi salam and says, yes, I am prepared to proceed on the basis that their hearts have changed, but I must remove the idols first. Before anything else, I must ensure that the idols go. He decides therefore to enter the holy Kaaba. He asked Imam Ali to obtain the keys. Imam Ali alayhi salam goes to the holder of the key, who is reluctant to part with the keys. Imam Ali says, the choice is yours. You give the keys to me peacefully, which is what I am seeking, or else I will pass the news to the Holy Prophet and abide by his orders. He grudgingly passes the key. With the key, Imam Ali alayhi salam opens the door and escorts the Holy Prophet in. And therein, the Holy Prophet orders each of those 360 idols to be pulled down. Each is pulled down one after the other until the biggest of them all comes. Difficult to get there. The Holy Prophet says to Imam Ali, orders Imam Ali to climb onto his shoulders and pull down that one too. That one too is broken into pieces. That is when all of them have gone, that is the time when the Holy Prophet himself recited the ayah, Ja al-haq wa zahaq al-batil, inna al-batila kana zahuqa. And look at the grace of this gracious Prophet. When he comes out of the Kaaba with all those idols broken, he calls that key holder and says, the key back to you. The key holder now is a different person. He's already a Muslim. He turns round to the Holy Prophet and says, Ya Rasulullah, O Prophet of Allah, the keys come back to me. Holy Prophet says, not only for today, but for all the time to come, you will keep the office of the key holder of the Kaaba. Not only that, he calls Hamza. Do you remember in Uhud? Hamza says to Imam Ali alayhi salam, you are picking on me, you are finding faults in me, but you are not able to see my good. And Imam Ali says, what good do you have? The first he mentioned was that I give water to the pilgrims and I look after the Kaaba. The Holy Prophet said, Hamza, the task of siqaya, of giving water, is restored to you. From today you are in charge of giving water. These high offices were given to those who were Makkans, to those who had recently converted and remained in that position. I had thought that tonight I will cover Hunain also. But I see there is no chance of doing so. I will postpone that inshallah to Friday, because the Holy Prophet was not able. By this time it is already the 20th of the holy month of the 8th Hijrah. He has not had time to go back to Medina. In fact, he went back to Medina in the month of Zilqa'dah. What happened in Shawwal is what occupied Hunain, and inshallah we shall discuss that on Friday. For the moment, we must revert to Karbala. And we must revert to Karbala because tonight is the night of Ashura. Tonight is the night for which Imam Hussein alayhi salam designated time. He said, I will not fight, Umar. I will not fight today, the day of Ta'asua, because I want this night so that we spend it in remembrance of Allah, in ruku' and in sujood. And this is how we spent the night. The dawn of the next morning is very well known as the dawn for the adhan of Ali Akbar. Because when Shahzada Ali Akbar delivered the azan at that day, all the ladies, his mother, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, lifted the hands and said, Oh Allah, may this voice resound in the world forever. May this cry resound forever. And we keep saying to these illustrious ladies, true, you lost your Akbar the next day. True, we sit and mourn Akbar till today, but till today, that sound in Karbala of Allahu Akbar has remained with us and is recited in our mosques as adhan, dedicated to his name. But for Karbala, would that adhan have remained today? Would that adhan have been alive in our mosques and on our minarets today? Whether in our mosque or in the mosque of any other Muslim for that matter. That was the day of Ashura, on which everybody gave his life. In fact, a stage was reached when the Imam alayhi salam would turn, nadarahu yaminan wa shimala. He would turn to the right and turn to the left and say, where are those who were fighting for me until this time? Where are those who would say, we will not let you go to the battlefield so long as we are alive? He would turn round and call them by name. Aina Habibi, Habib ibn Madahir. Aina Habib, Aina Muslim ibn Awsaja, Aina Akhi Abbas, Aina Waladi Akbar. Call them one by name. Indeed, some people have even recorded that those dead bodies also responded, saying, Labbaik, give us life and we will fight for you again. Imam Hussein alayhi salam now addresses the army of the Syrians and the Kufians and turns round and makes that illustrious istighatha which has remained in its beautiful golden words till today. And his words are, Hal min nasirin yansuruna. Is there any helper who is ready to kill yourself now? There was no reply from the Kufians, but in his ears he hears a very faint reply, and the reply is, Labbaik abadi, Labbaik abadi, oh my father, I am still alive and I am at your service. Imam Hussein alayhi salam immediately turns his horse back to the camp. He goes to the camp of Rabab and says, oh Rabab, my son Asghar is thinking of me. He spoke to me when I was in the battlefield. Oh Rabab, take me to my son Asghar. Rabab says, what will you do? And the Imam says, oh Rabab, I will take him to the battlefield. It is right that it is true that these people do not give us water, but will they not give water to my 6-month-old child? Rabab says, Yabna Rasulillah, you know better. You are the Imam of the time, you know better. But I have lost faith in these people altogether. But I can tell you that if there is any person who really needs water desperately, it is Asghar. And it is true he is thinking of you because he has toppled himself from the cradle. Imam Hussein says, let us not torment Asghar anymore. Give him over to me. And the mother says, but no, I will not just give you Asghar like that. He too is my warrior. My warrior may be 6 months old, but he is a warrior too. Imam Hussein says, Rabab, don't think of him as a warrior 6 months old. Don't compare him with my other warriors. He is a warrior far superior to any warrior I have had since morning. So he dresses Asghar. And Imam Hussein says, Rabab, don't finish at that. Give him a nice kiss. Give him a kiss now. This is your chance to do so. Rabab understands what is to follow. Rabab now understands what is to follow. Hugs Asghar and says to Asghar, oh my little one, Khuda Hafiz to you. May leave you in the hands of Allah. Hands over Asghar to Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Imam Hussein alayhi salam wrapped him up because it was so hot. Asghar may not be able to take it. Indeed,